G'day everyone and welcome to the Thursday Sesh by Celtic Down Under. I'm your host Shane. I'm filling in for Jared once again, who's still away at the moment, but rest assured Jared will be back in the hosting chair next week. Pleased to say that joining me on tonight's podcast is Willie. G'day Willie, how you going?
I'm going all right, Shane. I've been having a pretty chilled out day. I had the day off work today, so I got a lot of little things done that I needed to get done, and I got to watch a football match too, uninterrupted, which is pretty good too. So always good.
Yeah, nice one, mate. It was a 7 a.m. kickoff here, so it kind of overlaid for me, sort of getting ready for work. It was a nice early start, and we preceded that with that was basically preceding a very bit of a scorcher here today. We got up to about 38 degrees, so we just had the cool change roll through. So feeling a lot more comfortable now. But really good time to watch game of football. We've already got a few people jump into the comments. A few people were very early on, so I might just give a couple of Cheerios if we can. So heavy vibes. Good evening or good morning to you. How boys? We played better than I feared we would. What a start and finish to the game indeed, and we'll get into that in great detail very shortly. Shout out to McLaughlin P who's joining us. I love the emoticons there. Absolutely. And quick shout out to Andrew as well. Andrew Galea, I'm driving tonight, still listening. Great to have you on board, Andrew. And hello, of course, to Smell the Glove. So we've got a couple of people joined into the comments already. We've got a fair few people tuning in. And I'll take the opportunity, if I can, just to give a shout out like I did on Monday's pod. We love this vibrant community that we have when we have the pods week in, week out. We love the comments section, getting involved. We love all the new viewers tuning in for the first time. So as I said before, if this is something that catches your fancy and you do like what we do, give us a like, subscribe, get involved. We love seeing new people involved. We love getting the comment section flowing. And if you think this is something that other fellow Celtic fans would enjoy, get them involved. Chuck them a message. Tell them about the channel. We want to keep growing this vibrant community. And, of course, we're on all the socials, so Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, we're everywhere. And CelticDownUnder.com.au is where you can go to get some cool merch. I'm not wearing it tonight. I'm wearing the Origins top that was released last season, but you can get it some cool T-shirts and hoodies at CelticDownUnder.com.au. All right, Willie, so there's a couple of things we're going to go through tonight. Obviously, of course, we're going to talk about the result from this morning on our part of the world, but obviously overnight if you're in Europe. And then we'll look ahead to this weekend's match against Dundee United. But look, we'll start off first with the match played just recently, which was Celtic 1, Bayern Munich 2. So this is obviously the Champions League knockout stage to progress to the round of 16. It was the first leg, and Bayern take a 2-1 lead back home when we play them again on Wednesday. So there's a couple of discussion points to go through, and we sort of talked about this on Monday a little bit, how we were how we're going to cover the loss of Dyson Maeda, and then I woke to the news Tuesday morning, our time, that his appeal had been, or his ban had been successfully appealed down to a one-match suspension instead of 2, which made him available. So, Willie, I'll come to you on this particular matter. How were you feeling looking ahead to the game against Bayern Munich, both before and after the decision for Maeda's red card to come down to 1 week instead of 2? Did that change how you were feeling about the game going into it?
It did leave me a little bit more positive, to be honest. Jota did well when he came on last night, but I don't think he's quite at 100% match sharpness yet. He might be match fit. He's not match sharp. So I was kind of concerned him going into a game against an opposition like Bayern Munich when he's not quite ready for it. But I had no idea we were appealing the decision until you broke the news in the group chat. And I'm like, wait a second, what is this? Is this how I end up? And I had to go and check online and that. And it was true enough. I was over the moon. I was really excited, but I was like, this is great news. I mean, gives us options. Okay, we've flogged him. We've run him into the ground 3 games prior, but he's the sort of guy that will recover from that, you know what I mean? But it was great news. I was over the moon with it.
I must admit, I was quite surprised too when I read it, and when I did sort of make mention of it in our sort of group chat discourse. I think a few people thought that maybe it was a bit of a doctored image, and that perhaps it was a rumor doing the rounds instead. So,
Yeah.
like yourself, I had no idea the club had actually chosen to appeal it. I thought they'd just taken it on the chin, and that was that. So, I was already quietly confident of getting a positive result, and then seeing that news definitely made me more inclined to think we could get something from the game. But I digress. We'll go back to the start of the game, and in particular, we'll run through our starting lineup. So I've just got it on my screen here. Let me rattle it off for you. So in goal, we had Schmeichel, Greg Taylor at left back. We had, as Jared calls them, Team America as the two centre halves. So Austin Trusty and Cameron Carter-Vickers. And AJ was on the right. Our midfield three, always some questions around the midfield three in terms of who's going to make up that trio. So this time it was Hatate, McGregor, and Engels. And then up top, the man that we've just been talking about, Dyson Maeda, Adam Eder leading the line, and then Kun on the right. So just having a look at that starting lineup, Willie, what did you make of it? Were there any surprises for you? Did you think differently in terms of maybe that midfield trio?
Nah, that's exactly how I would have played it. Bernardo for Hatate, maybe the only difference you might have made in there, but for me, it was the exact same 11 I would have picked to start the game, and there's no real shocks in it at all. It's probably our strongest starting 11 at this moment in time too, so you can't really argue with the decisions.
Agree completely. Yeah, I think you pretty much summed it up. Bernardo was the only one I think you could maybe look at and say we could possibly bring him in instead, maybe for a bit more size in the midfield. But overall, I think that is our strongest starting 11 at the moment. So, look, we'll get into the chat about the first half. And Willie, I'm happy for you to take the lion's share here. I'll hand over to you just to give us a rundown of the first half and your overall take of things.
Yeah, I thought it was a really positive half of football for us, actually. I think we showed great concentration and determination as Bayern sort of forced their game upon us. I mean, we had the early offside goal, had the stadium rocking, and that's exactly what you wanted. But it kept the fans going. Okay, it was ruled offside, but the fans it still gave the fans a little bit of hope. But after 5 or 10 minutes, Bayern really started to get a grip of the ball and really started to press us. But we were really compact. We held our lines well, and just their superiority showed all over the pitch. They pressed us with high line that really turned over possession, rarely turned over possession, and they just hounded the life of us, getting the ball back off us straight away. Not only that, when we did get the ball, I think it was Joe Hart said this, they don't just close you down instantaneously, they shut off the passing lanes too. So when you do get a little bit of a break, you look at, there's nothing but a risky ball on. You know ourselves, we don't take the risky passes. We try to play it safe until there is a clear opening and we take it. So, yeah, we needed to be really sharp. We needed to be focused and we need to be accurate with our passing. You look at the passing accuracy, I think we were 88% passing accuracy for the first half, which is pretty high. You know, I mean, it's slightly lower than what we normally get domestically, but it's still pretty high. But ultimately, there was no passes forward, and we had to pass back the whole time to try and restart another attack when we did get possession, and that just allows Bayern Munich to step their defence out. It allows them to step their midfield up slightly higher, and then they just squeeze you into your own half. And there was times you saw Manuel Neuer, he was sitting outside the 18-yard box, wandering up whilst their defenders were pushing towards the halfway line. But you could see Celtic's idea was to try and get the balls out to the wingers, clip them long. But like I've already said, Bayern were great at shutting them passing lane down pretty quickly. So it was overall, it was a good half of football. I mean, we restricted them to half a dozen chances, 2 or 3 great saves from Schmeichel. The one from Olise was probably the pick of them. A couple of missed efforts from Kane, the header at the back post. He should have shunted AJ away from him and he got a free header, but he didn't get it in there. And then you think, this is great, we're going to go in at half time. No, this is a positive. This will be a positive result going in at half time, and then you were just unlucky. I mean, we'll talk about the goal if you want, but we were just unlucky the way it broke, and you go in there 1-0 down, slightly deflated.
Well, I think I'll just pick up on a couple of things you mentioned, and agree with pretty much everything that you outlined there. Obviously, the stadium was rocking and I've said this before and I'll continue to say it, there is no other place on earth like Paradise on a Champions League night. Like, it was just tremendous. The atmosphere was electric. I'm sitting, on the other side of the world. I'm watching it at 7 a.m. through bleary eyes, and that atmosphere just comes right at you through the TV. There's nothing like it, and it was incredible once again. I really loved the tifo as well. I thought that was awesome. It looked epic, and the whole stadium was rocking. And then after 30 seconds, Kun puts a goal in, and if you thought the atmosphere was good at kickoff, if there was a roof on that place, it would have just blown off with that goal. It was incredible. And look, it was rightly ruled out for offside. Don't get me wrong. That'd be offside anywhere. I didn't have any qualms with that, but it was a wonderful start. And you kind of thought, well, how is this going to pan out for the rest of the first half? And pretty much exactly what you said happened, which was after about 5-10 minutes, they got a foothold in the game. They started to dictate with the ball. It kind of fell into a pattern I was kind of expecting, where they would kind of control the lion's share of possession, and we'd kind of have to really absorb. And then when we got our opportunities, either really incisive passing or just on the break counterattack. And what kind of, in some regards, it made me positive we could get something, but at the same time deflated me just how good they were was their pressing. Their pressing was fantastic. Not only were they pressuring the ball, but as you alluded to, they were stopping the passing lanes. And it just felt like we had no out ball whatsoever. We were under constant pressure. And, that press, I thought if we could just get over it, if we could get through, at least play through once or twice, we might be able to peg them back a little bit. We might be able to get that goal. So it was kind of one of those things where I was going, I think there's an opportunity to get at them here, but they were just so effective at it that we really couldn't do anything. And it felt like we were constantly losing the ball. But overall, I was still very positive about the performance, because I thought as a unit, we defended very well. I thought as a cohesive unit defensively, we were fantastic. I thought there was very little space between the lines. I thought we kept our shape very well. And that shows by the fact that they created very little in that first half in terms of clear-cut chances. They had a lot of the ball. They were knocking it from side to side, and they had us under a lot of pressure. But at no point did it feel like it was wave after wave of we were getting lucky, that could have gone in, or that was a wonderful save. Like, we really did restrict them from creating anything too dangerous. So, overall, I thought it was a really good first half, and I was actually getting very excited going into halftime, thinking it could be 0-0. Because again, looking at that press and the intensity of it, I was most certainly expecting that to taper off a little bit from them. Don't get me wrong, they're a quality outfit, but that press was intense. And I thought if we could just hold them here, I think we can get something. And then that goal just before halftime really changes a few things, unfortunately. So might get to a few of the comments while I've rattled off that bit of that discussion. And I showed this one before. I'll just bring it back up from Maestro 95. To be fair, they never created much. I'd agree with that. I don't think they created anything really clear cut apart from the goal itself and then that Kane missed header, which in all honesty, he should have done better with. There's a few other Kings coming up. We've got a comment here regarding Kalmak. I'm a big admirer of our captain, but I feel his time is coming to an end. We might get into that a little bit later. It's an interesting discussion point from Maestro there. Henrik McGlasson, very respectable performance, came out from behind the couch second half. Fair enough. And there's obviously a fair bit of discussion about the goal in the second half. So we might talk about the goal that basically closed off the first half. Willie, I'll get you to give us your rundown of it. If you just want to sort of go into detail about the goal from Michael Elisa and let us know what you think.
Yeah, it was a clever switch of play from. I'm trying to remember who the centre half was. Was it Upamenko? Was it Upamenko or was it Dyer? I think it was Upamenko. He clipped a clever little switch of play from one side to the other, and it just felt Elise, but I think it bounced off Greg Taylor. Greg Taylor was in the right position to try and defend the ball, and the ball just ricocheted off him and fell into Ulysses' path, and he just swiveled his hips to get away from Taylor. He created that. I mean, it's a half chance, and boom, it's in the back of the net. And he's created it for himself. You know what I mean? It's like I say, clever ball in, but the way he's just shifted Greg Taylor out of his way creates a space, and it's just a thunderous finish into the top corner. gives Schmeichel no chance. It's just ferocious shot, like, and just precision. It's a really, really bad time to lose a goal to. I mean, like I said earlier, you think you're going to go in 0-0 at half time. You go in, get your breather and come out, regroup and go again, see if you can go another half without conceding a goal. But to go in, it's just heads down there. You're going in at half time, it's deflating. Like,
yeah, look, it was a tremendous strike. And initially when I saw it live, I thought Taylor had been really poor in this. But looking at the replay, he's isolated with Elisa, and I'd already had in my notes that Elisa was looking dangerous, and I thought he was probably their best player on the night. I thought he was fantastic. He always looked a constant threat. I thought we'd done a good job of sort of marshalling him a little bit, and in particular having someone there on the inside to help Greg out. This was probably the first time where he was exposed one-on-one with him. He actually didn't do an awful job. The ball ricochets off Taylor's leg, as you said, and unfortunately that just creates a little bit of an opening. And Elisa's a quality player, and he's able to shift it so easily. And not only was the build-up fantastic, but the strike was tremendous. Like, that's a quality goal near post. Schmeichel has no chance, and it's just a wonderful hit. And I agree wholeheartedly. Like, we were looking forward to going in at 0-0 at half-time. I think the whole game complexion is a little bit different then. I don't think it reflected how well, it may have reflected the way that they had played with the ball, but I don't think that 1-0 reflected just how hard we'd fought and scrapped in that half. So it was disappointing to go 1-0 down. So a couple of comments coming in before we get to the second half. Maestro, you're in a couple of times here. I'm loving your work tonight. Once Celtic lost the fear, the players started to implement their game. They're on a different level, but that is next level for us. We'll chat about that, obviously, in a second when we talk about the second half. Ouija with the comment there. I felt we could have won that. The boys just seemed to have a bit of fear at the times. That was something Brendan actually mentioned in his press conference. I was going to bring this up at the end, but might as well talk about it now. One of the things he highlighted was he was disappointed with how passive we were in the first half. Willie, what do you make of that? Because I can see what he's saying, but I also thought that passiveness was a direct result of just how good Bayern's press actually was. What do you make of that comment from the gaffer?
There was a little bit of pass. Now, I don't know. Bayern were just so concise with their passing. You could say we were a little bit passive, but the way Bayern passed the ball, it was just accurate. Every ball was to feet, and it was one touch, move it on. There was no dilly-dallying about what they were doing. It wasn't rock and roll football like you see with Liverpool or that under Klopp. There was none of that high intensity, high electric pace where they're just running at you and running at you. They just moved the ball accurately, just from one person to the next. There's an opening there, no back, and they just probed and probed and probed. And every time they moved, their defense moved a little bit higher. I wouldn't say we were passive. No, I think we tried to defend, and this isn't Celtic's natural game. And I thought CCV did really well marshalling the defence, and I thought McGregor did a great job marshalling the midfield. And two of them kept those lines together to make sure that when they were passing and trying to pass through us, that there wasn't fucking massive big openings that they could exploit spaces with. So I wouldn't say we were too passive. I just think they are a level above us. Like, you know what I mean? When the awards are handed out at the end of the season for European trophies and that, you wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if Bayern names on the European Cup. Like, you know what I mean? So I think the players deserve a lot of credit for the performance last night. This is Bayern Munich. This is a massive, massive club. This is the best team in Germany, and we've already seen, I think, the second best team in Germany tore us apart and beat us 7-1. And to come away with a performance like that, to show that we can go out and, okay, we might not win the game, but we've shown them that we're not going to go down easy. And I thought it was a decent performance. So passive, no, I wouldn't say that, no.
Yeah, I agree. I could see where he was coming from, but I was a little bit surprised by that comment. There seemed to be a little bit of a contrast between Brendan and Kalmack in their respective post-match interviews. Brendan seemed a little bit more downcast about the fact that they hadn't been able to play out in the first half a little bit and were under so much pressure. I think Kalmack basically was sort of alluding to the quality they had and how hard the team scrapped. So it was interesting. Just while we're talking about the post-match stuff, McLaughlin P, I got the sense BR thought Kuhn's goal should have stood at his interview. Maybe he hadn't seen a replay of it. I must admit, I didn't really pick that up. But the one, I will say that I felt like Brendan thought the penalty should have been given. And we'll come to that in a bit of detail in the next part of the when we review the second half. But definitely Brendan gave me the impression he was expecting the penalty to have stood instead. Pork Schlupp Express. I commented on your name change on Monday. I still love it, mate. We stepped it up when we scored. If the first goal had stood, the score might have been different. Very much so. All right. Well, we might move into the chat about the second half. And so, Willie, I'll defer to you again. Give us a rundown of the second half, obviously punctuated by a really disappointing goal to concede very shortly after the break. But just give us a rundown of the second half and how you thought things panned out.
Yeah, I mean, we got in at half-time, 1-0 down. I'm thinking, right, just regroup, go out there, start again, keep your lines tight, and just try not to concede early and see if you can grow into the game. And it's just what a silly goal to lose from a corner, and to leave Harry Kane unmarked at the back post. It's just criminal. It absolutely killed the noise from our fans. The only thing you could hear then was the Bayern fans, as our fans went really quiet after they scored. But they worked it well. They had their little crowd of boys at the back post, and they all started doing the little dance round in circles, and they moved off. And when everyone peeled off to catch a man, AJ was caught in the middle. He'd left Harry Kane on his own. And Harry Kane got a chance in the first half and missed it. If you give him the exact same chance again, he's not going to miss that. So he got his hips over the ball, nice left-footed volley. You can't argue, you know what I mean? You're giving him all the time in the world to finish that. So it was 2-0, and it was really an uphill struggle from there. But again, that's just Bayern exerted their superiority and seemed to be sort of omnipresent all over the pitch as we tried to sort of play in and around, but we just couldn't do nothing. And it wasn't until the substitutions came, sort of 60th minute or something like that, that's when the game changed. Jan came on for Kuhn. We seemed to get a bit more joy, but I think the key thing for getting the more joy was when Ida came off and Dyson went through the middle. I think it was after the 70th minute, we ended up with 9 shots in the second half. All bar one of them, came after the 70th minute. I think one came from Hatate just inside the box. I think he should have done better with that, actually. But whether Bayern took their foot off the gas or we stepped it up, or a combination of both, it ended up being a decent spell for us that last 20 minutes. But it was, I say, Bayern's superiority for the first 70 minutes of the game just did enough to win it for them, man.
Yeah, so just I saw it pretty similar to yourself. Slight difference, though, particularly after they scored. So the goal was very deflating, just in the manner in which it was conceded. Steve at our group chat pointed out the way that they were sort of lining up. The Bayern players were lining up from the corner, and they were really deep. And then sort of a couple of them would make a run towards the keeper or the penalty spot. And I'm not sure what happened. I've watched it back a couple of times, but AJ is seemingly already in the middle, almost near the penalty spot, if not standing right on top of it. And I sort of get the impression that perhaps he had somehow or thought he had handed over to someone else like Engels or something like that. And there was just a complete lack of communication there, because how you could leave anyone unmarked to that degree, let alone, let's be honest, one of the best strikers in the world, is beyond me. And it was that complete breakdown was so frustrating. And I thought initially, particularly at that first 5 minutes just after halftime, that we'd started pretty poorly. Now, I think we'd given away a couple of corners at that point as well. And we just looked like we hadn't come out just yet. They scored, make it 2-0. What I was pleased by is I saw an immediate response. I felt like we came out a little bit. And I think you touched on this really well. I think it was a combination that we started to play more of our natural game, decided to get on the ball a bit more. And I think they backed off a little bit at 2-0. I don't think they had the same intensity with the press. They didn't sort of get in the way of the passing lanes as much as they were. I think they thought they could contain a little bit more. And I think we started to get into a little bit of a rhythm, though, again, we weren't really creating too many clear-cut opportunities. And you're right, that didn't really sort of come until the substitutions came on. So we had Schlupp come on in the 65th minute for Greg Taylor, and we had Jota come on as well. And I think that was for Was that for Ida? I think Jota may have come on for
Yeah, it
Ida, and then
was,
Mieta played through the middle. Yeah, which was an interesting ploy from Brendan. And then I felt then we started to get a little bit of momentum even just before the goal. And then Yang came on, and to his credit, he's someone who I've obviously over the course of a couple of pods had mentioned that maybe he's not at the level. And it's going to be hard to articulate this, but he gave it a little bit of a spark, a little bit of energy off the bench that really did help lift. And it was at a time where we were just starting to build into the game nicely. They were sitting back a bit more, and we got a goal that I think really, on the balance of how hard we worked throughout the 90, we most certainly deserved. And it was. I'll get your take on it in a minute, but obviously, ball comes into to Yang. We initially think it's offside. Mate is able to bundle it home, but Yang, being in the right place at the right time, gets his toe on it. It's a new phase of play. Mate is onside at that point and tucks it home, and it was reward for a bit of a momentum change. And I'll get your take on the goal in a second, but we carried that momentum in for the remainder of the half. And there's no way, if we had gone and gotten an equaliser, I would not have been surprised. If we had managed to get this back to 2-2 with the way that we were playing in that last 10 minutes, I definitely wouldn't be surprised. And I don't think it would have been unjust either. But I'll get your take on the Dyson goal before I skip too far ahead.
Yeah, it was. I think the ball came in. I'm trying to think who's in the. Somebody headed it over and Young got a touch on it, but I didn't see Young get a touch on it. I thought Young fresh aired it and it just fell at Dyson made his feet. It wasn't until I seen the angle from behind the goal. I think Paul Massey said it in the group chat. You can definitely see it from this angle. Yeah, he does just get the wee toe on the ball, which falls into Dyson's path, and he just slots it home. It's a good goal, well worked, good team goal. And as you say, Young gets the assist in one of the biggest games of our season. It's not something we would have said 2 or 3 months ago. I've never said a bad word about Young, but I know some of the guys in the group chat just don't like it, but they don't rate him as a Celtic player. And it was a good goal, like I say, a good team goal, and it really put the wind in our sails. But that's one of the worst things. 2-0. They always say 2-0 is a dangerous scoreline because you can concede a goal and all of a sudden the other team is winning their sail and you're on the back foot, which is kind of how it played out a little bit there. But I do think there was a case of 2-0. Bayern decided, right, we can set off a bit now. Let's Celtic come at us, and maybe we can make them step out too far and pick off some openings in them. But it didn't work out that way because that's the kind of game we're used to playing naturally. And once we got that little bit of space to try and play, the rhythm that we're used to, the style of play that we normally play, kind of clicked into gear. And for that last 20 minutes, we kind of pushed on at them. And I think Bayern kind of realised, maybe that was the wrong move to make, is to try and step up, and maybe we should have just stayed on them and pressed them the way we were for the first 70 minutes of the game.
Well, something Pegleg Lonergan's just picked up on, which I neglected to mention, and I'll just bring this up on screen now. Oliseh coming off seemed to affect them. He was a focal point for their attack. Superb player. Absolutely agree. I thought he was the best player on the park. I thought he was quality, and every time he got on the ball, he looked like he was going to make something happen, and he was giving Taylor a torrid time, let's be honest. Now, Maeda was doing an excellent job in that first half tracking back. It's exactly what you want from Dyson, and it didn't surprise me that sort of that one moment of quality happened when Taylor was kind of isolated on Oliseh. But no shame on Taylor, really. It was an unlucky break of the ball, and Michael Oliseh is just a tremendous player, but really good call that. Just a couple of comments that came in as well. Again, Pegleg Lonergan, just on the Yang chat. Yes, kudos to Yang, the whipping boy. His decision-making running was good. I agree. I thought he added something. Again, it was a little bit hard to articulate, but I think he just added a bit of energy that we were lacking, and I thought he was really important. Big Dom mentioned before, Bayern a world-class football royalty. Celtic were very good considering the massive golf and resources. I think that's something we have to acknowledge as well. And Pegleg Lonergan, again, I've had a couple of your good comments come up, and this one fits the bill as well. In truth, they're a class apart. However, all their intricate passing, the clear-cut chances they created were limited. The second goal we conceded was criminal. That's absolutely right. And, for all of the dominance they had, they really didn't create that many clear-cut chances. You and I, Willie, and everyone in the comments have seen many European nights where it's felt like we've just been hanging on, that goal that literally is just coming. And, it's whizzed past the post, or it's there's been a massive save against all odds, and that didn't really happen tonight, or last night, I should say. They didn't really get into that kind of rhythm, which was good. Another comment here, just coming in from Big Dom. Generally, Brenda's had us well organised, and we looked okay, which I certainly agree with. So just on that front, and we'll no doubt go into a bit more detail about the return leg on Wednesday. The boys on the Monday pod will most certainly go into a bit more detail about that. But just looking back and also looking ahead, Willie, is there anything we could have done, or maybe Brendan could have done differently to get a different result? And looking ahead, is there any immediate things that come to mind that you change when we go to the Allianz?
I think something that you could have done different was throw Maeda through the middle from the start, but then you lose. It was a difficult night for Ida being stuck up top on his own. He had a lot of backtracking to do as well. You know what I mean? Even if he didn't see any shots on target, he did work tirelessly for the full 90 minutes. But I think that if you were going to do it differently, that's one thing you could have done. But then I don't think Jota's ready to play full 90 minutes at that level. But then Young surprised us when he came on. So there is something that you could possibly think about. A front three of Maeda, Jota and Kuhn is something that's just really exciting. You know what I mean? To think about. That's got a lot of goals and a lot of pace and a little bit of flair there that Jota has. You know what I mean? It's something that's going to be really exciting to see. Somebody's going to take a real sore one off that three at some point. But I don't think there's much more you could have done. There's not many more changes. I mean, we said earlier on that that's probably the strongest starting 11 you've got, because Ida is an out-and-out striker. Hatate prefers to be on the left wing rather than anywhere else on the pitch, I would say. But he did seem to get a lot of joy. Instead of having his runs limited to just either coming inside or hitting the byline, having the space to go any way he wanted. You know what I mean? He gave him all just... he's like Speedy Gonzalez. He just runs and runs and runs. He just keeps going. And when you've got other directions to go, rather than a touchline there stopping you going in one direction, then it is definitely something that he should look at for maybe in the Allianz.
Well, shout out to Ouija, who put this comment in a bit earlier before we went into the discussion about will we start the same three up front Munich, and go with Maeda through the middle. So I think that's a really pertinent point. There's a couple of key things I want to get back to in the game in terms of key decisions, which we'll touch on in a second. But just this earlier comment from John Clements, which I wanted to bring up at the end of the sort of second half discussion. Games change in certain moments. Offside goal, last seconds goal, first half. Kane totally unmarked for goal. Penalty turned down when it's a foul anywhere else on the pitch. I'll come to the penalty in just a second. But before I do... one of the things that I think encapsulated sort of the first half and a little bit of the second half overall in terms of just the amount of pressure we're under is there was a moment just before the 40th minute where the ball broke kindly for Hatate in the middle of the park. He played Maeda in. Maeda was in behind. It was just a slightly poor touch or he just got it caught up in his feet. I can't remember exactly what it was. But before you knew it, the centre half was on him. And it was just that moment where he was clear through and you're looking at getting a shot on goal and just that slight little misstep or miskick, and all of a sudden the ball's lost and the chance is gone. And that kind of gets to the point where we're sort of looking into sort of what I was saying before, I should say, about the sort of how we had to be really... when we were passing, it had to all work really well for us just because of the quality that they had on the park. I've just had Willie drop off there for just a second, so I'm sure he'll be back. There he is. Look at that. Straight back. No mucking around. Okay, so a couple of... I waffled on there for a little bit while I was clearly distracted. I guess what I was trying to sum up, I'll try and do that again and be a bit more... explain it a bit better. We had to be really perfect in the first half when we got our opportunities. And that moment, which looked like a good opportunity, just a slight imperfection, and they were on us straight away. And that just showed the quality that they had and just the quality of the pressing and their ability to get back and defend, and just how under pressure we were at all the time. And maybe some of that could even be perceived pressure. But overall, I still thought that we were good value across the entire 90, to be honest. I definitely think that we had we gone and snatched an equaliser, I wouldn't have been surprised. So, all right, let's get to a couple of key things. We've obviously talked about the goals. We talked about the offside goal already. The penalty shout. So this was the centre half who, initially on live footage couldn't really sort of gather what had happened, and then the replay and sort of VAR was taking a little bit of time to check. I think it was Upamecano that actually trotted on Engels' foot. And then all of a sudden you look and go, oh, actually, hang on, I think this is a pen here. What did you make of it when you were watching it and seeing those replays? Were you thinking it was a penalty in the end? Did you think they got to the right decision? Were you frustrated with the VAR process? Tell me your thoughts.
I thought it was. I thought something had happened to begin with. I thought Engels went down. I thought that guy stood in his foot, but I actually thought because when Engels fell down, he was outside the box, and I thought, oh, this has happened outside the box, but the flag had gone up for offside. So instantly, I thought, well, it's offside, so whether it's a penalty or not, it's irrelevant because he's in an offside position, so it's not going to be I thought it was a free kick, to be honest. And then when I seen one of the replays, that might actually be inside the box. And then I think I said it in the group chat, is this a penalty? And Sean replied, I thought the same myself. And then as the replays were coming in, you seen one of it, some sort of, from the linesman's point of view, you could see him standing on his foot. You know, this is a penalty, he's going to get this. But then they went on and on and on. And then a couple of seconds later, 5 seconds, 10 seconds later, whatever it was, you seen one from the other angle, which you see him actually getting a little bit of a touch. And then all of a sudden, you're like, well, hang on a second, if he's got a touch on a ball and he's followed through onto his foot, then that's not a penalty. So I think the right decision was reached, but it took a long time to get there. And obviously, we're sitting here having this debate, and it goes back and forth in the group chat. Is it a penalty? Isn't it a penalty? You know what I mean? People in pubs will be sitting there discussing it. The same as with the VAR guys. Is this a penalty? Isn't it a penalty? And they look at it from all angles and they say, well, we've stopped it for this long. You may as well, told the referee, you may as well come over here and see this. And he's gone over and he's put his own take on it. And he just says, oh, no, this is what I seen. And I seen the little touch the guy got. So it's not a penalty. And I think the right decision was reached in the end. So.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, it was interesting watching it that, initially I thought there was nothing to it. And then you saw it from one angle and thought, oh, that's a clear pen. It stood on Engels' foot. And then you see, and then I'm sort of just expecting this to be given. And then you see the other angle where he nicks the ball. And then it falls into that category of, well, does that absolve the foul itself? Now, my view on it is that I didn't think it was a penalty after I saw that, because I don't think he's fouled Engels. I think he's nicked the ball away, and as a result of him kicking the ball, his foot's landed where Engels was. But I think there can definitely be a discussion about it, and I can sort of see why people were saying they thought it was a pen. I thought the ref overall didn't have the best of games. I think he got to the right decision there with VAR, and I commented at the time, it's rare to see a ref actually get called over to the footage and then not overturn it and stick with their original decision. But I thought overall he wasn't great, and I thought the linesman in particular made a couple of key errors, particularly first half, where for a couple of corners given that I don't think were corners, and vice versa at the other end, we had one that wasn't given that was a clear corner to us. So overall, I think the actual running of the lines was a little bit of the problem here. But got a couple of comments coming in as well. I'll get to them in a second. So let me just have a scroll down here. A little bit of confusion here on the TV. They said Engels was offside. Then the next thing is VAR. Yep, I was a bit perplexed by that as well. Henrik McLaughlin, can you give a goal kick when you watch it come off a Bayern player's leg? That was, yes, that was a very interesting decision. And another one from Henrik McLaughlin. Sorry, refs, there you go. Wouldn't allow him to back down. Look, personally for me, I think he got the right decision in the end. But, like I said, it's a rare occurrence to actually see a ref not overturn it after getting called there. But, as I said, I won't repeat myself too much, but I think they got to the right decision in the end. So, Willie, were there any players you wanted to highlight? I'll bundle either good or not so good together, in particular, and maybe you could give us who you thought, from a Celtic point of view, was our best on the park.
From a Celtic point of view, I think Ingles was the best in the park. I thought he was the most lively midfielder. I thought Callum McGregor sat in there and allowed him to play some sort of more offensive sort of passes. You know what I mean? He played some nice forward balls from time to time when the opportunity arose, and he always looked lively. He's ready to take the ball. So for me, Ingles was probably our best player. I don't think anyone had a bad game for us. I'm not going to sit there and hang anyone out to dry. I think Hattati was probably marked out of the game a bit, but he did manage to shake his marker free. He did get some nice balls. You know, I mean, he did make a few good passes and a few good opportunities as well here and there, but he was pretty much marked out of the game for large periods. But yeah, and Maeda was just sensational as always. You know what I mean? He runs, and like I say, he runs and runs. But saying that, the boy Lamar, who has shadowed him out there at their right back because he was playing on the left, obviously, he was pretty quick himself, and there was every time Dyson tried to run down the wing, he was there behind him, shadowing them. So kudos to that guy too. But if you want to talk about who the man of the match was, Alyssa was the man of the match. If you want to teach your kids how to attack half spaces, show them a video of this guy playing football, because that's how it was done.
Yeah, pretty much agree. So I had, from a Celtic persuasion, I had Ingles as well, probably just behind Maeda. I thought Maeda worked tirelessly throughout in the first half. A lot of times when we were defending, he was doing a good job of covering Greg Taylor as per usual, and helping out on that left side. Then in the second half, he continued that work rate, and then when he shifted to the middle, he was very effective as well. And he had a couple of that one opportunity too as well in the second half where he his pace nipped in front of the pass back to Neuer and Neuer, sorry, and then he sort of sprayed it across goal, unfortunately, which was a little bit of a pity. But I thought he was fantastic. As said, Engels looked very good for us. I thought every time I thought he did a lot of the hard work in midfield. I thought he was working tirelessly to try and get the ball back. I thought, though, that when he got on the ball, he looked like making something happen for us. I thought, and this one's debatable a little bit, I thought AJ actually had a pretty good game down the right, but his marking for the Kane chance in the first half, and if he was meant to have been marking him for the goal he scored, really does unfortunately diminish what I thought was a pretty solid night on the right-hand side. I thought he worked tremendously hard. And and I thought, and I agree with you in terms of man of the match, Oliseh was absolutely fantastic throughout. So in terms of other players, look, I thought Kun, obviously that opening chance was very good. I don't want to really hang out anyone else dry as well. I thought they played tremendously well as a collective, but I thought Cornanita just really struggled to get into the game, maybe through no fault of their own, but I just thought they struggled to get up to speed with the game, unfortunately. So, well, I think that covers off most of the discussion around the game. We're still alive in the tie. We're only a goal down. What's your vibe heading into the second leg on Wednesday? How are you feeling about it this early on? Oh, you're just on mute there. Sorry.
I'm not too confident going into the Allianz. I think our away form isn't great in Europe. I mean, we've had a couple of decent results this season, but going away to the Allianz is a massive, massive task. And I think we've seen how professional a team Bayern are. I think they will probably go out to try and kill that tie as early as they possibly can. So for me, we're going to go out. I just don't want us to go out on a hiding. I want us to go out on a decent performance. So if we can get another performance like we had last night and just a 2-1 defeat, I would quite happily settle with that. Like, you know what I mean? But I just don't want us to go out there and get a hiding. But I have this fear in the back of my head that just tell me something like it could go horribly wrong, because I don't know. Just the Allianz Arena, Bayern Munich, they're massive. You've seen their quality last night, so aye.
I think it's all. I come into this with a little bit of, again, maybe it's blind faith. I don't know, but I still think we're very much certainly still alive in the tie. I know it's a daunting task. I know the team we're playing. I know it's away from home. I know our record isn't great in terms of these maybe big fixtures against clubs like Bayern Munich, but I've just got this undeniable sense that we could do something still. I think it all hinges on what we do in the first sort of 10 to 15 minutes. I think if we can jag an early goal, get that tie back on level terms, I think anything's possible. So, and I think now with the ability, and we were talking about this before, with obviously the options of putting Maeda through the middle instead of maybe having Eder on the park and just Jota coming off on the left and with Kun on the right as well, I think it makes us very dangerous going forward. And as long as we've got those kind of threats on the park, I think we're always a chance to jag a goal. And then, as I said, we get this aggregate to 2-2, particularly early on. You just never know what's going to happen from there. So I'm going in with this, knowing it's a daunting task, as I said, but with a little bit of confidence. And so that's I think Wednesday morning. I think it's another 7 a.m. here from memory, so probably 9 a.m. your side. And about 8 o'clock Glasgow time, if I'm not mistaken. So, all right, I think that wraps up a fair bit of the chat about the game. Was there any last thoughts you wanted to add on it before we move forward?
I love your optimism. I wish you could share some of that with me. The way I'm feeling about it, I just feel a little bit pessimistic compared to you.
And I think that's completely understandable. I'm sure I'm probably in the minority, to be honest. But I just think if we can get something early on, you just never know, and all of a sudden the belief grows. They're obviously going to be cheered on by an incredible away support as we always are. We always travel in numbers. We always make it a great atmosphere, and the boys know that they're playing for all of those who've made the journey across. They did joke on the coverage that some of them were heading across tonight to start a very long week over in Germany. So if you are tuning in and you are heading across tonight or later today, shout out to you. That's incredible, and I hope you enjoy your time. All right. So something we obviously got the upcoming fixture on the weekend to talk about, but something you wanted to something you mentioned during our group discussions with, I think we can sort of maybe touch on a little bit, was just around a little bit of the league restructuring, and it kind of ties into what we were talking about, or what we're going to talk about, sorry, as I move my mic out of my way, with the fact that you sort of picked up on the fact that we're playing a Dundee club again very shortly after playing another Dundee club. I might hand over to you at this point. Just you want to give us a sort of bit of a rundown of what you sort of wanted to highlight. It's a bit of a frustration from your side in regards to the league and the way the fixtures are kind of structured.
Yeah, we're playing Dundee United, and it seems to be like since Christmas we've played 6 or 7 games, and I think half of them have been against opposition from Dundee, and it just gets repetitive, and it just highlights that small league that we have. That just, you seem to play the same opposition over and over again, and it just, when you get a congested period like we've had in sort of December and January, it just seems to highlight that. You know what I mean? Like I say, it seems to be every second game we're playing somebody from Dundee at this moment in time. And I think it's just, I think fans of every club are in the same situation now. And I'm not going to say every fan's the same as I am, but I think I'm very much in the majority with this one, that the repetitiveness where you play the same team 4 times a season, home, away again, you know what I mean? And you can draw them in the caps. You could end up playing the same team 6 times. And I know it's all geared towards Celtic and Rangers playing each other 6 times, and the TV sponsorship deals just love that sort of thing. But the paying customer, you know what I mean? He's sitting there on a Saturday, who we got this morning now, we're playing them again. We only played them 3 weeks ago. You know what I mean? It's raining. I don't know all of you now. I've seen them already this season. You know what I mean? There might be some fans who'll just walk away from it. And it's not just the Premier League. You've got teams in the Championship, Division 1, the 3rd Division. They're all in the same boat. They're all just over this whole playing each other 4 times a season thing. Like I said, the repetitiveness of it, it's just getting tiresome now, and I think it's time for a change. And that, like, we sort of touched on how we restructure the league, and it was just a quick sort of how do you think you would do it? And I would have 3 divisions of 16. Now, ultimately, that's 48 clubs. You only have 42 professional clubs, so that gives you 6 spaces. That would allow 3 or 4 spaces for our B teams to come into the league proper, and they would be able to get promoted, they would be able to get relegated. They would never be allowed in the Premier League, but they could go up to the Championship. or they could even go down to the Lowland League through relegation if they don't get it right. And you could allow a couple of the bigger teams that are in the Lowland League or the Highland League, whether it's Brechin or Bucky or East Fife or one of them teams, a couple of them can come up as well. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to get a bit more competition going, because I think fans are just tired of watching the same old stuff week in, week out now.
Now I'm on mute. Now we've got a couple of comments coming in regards to what you're suggesting there, Willie. So Maestro 95 clubs in the Premier won't vote for it. Comment from Henrik McGlasson, which I think definitely plays an important part. Could we afford to? Which I think is very important. And obviously the finances around that here are very interesting. Smell the Glove makes a very interesting point, which I think is worth discussing. I think Dundee and Dundee United fixtures were moved due to League Cup semi-final and final. So it looks like we played them in a lot recently, which is fair. Obviously, we had that delayed Dundee fixture, of course, due to the storms. I think it was only delayed a week or so, but still that plays a part of it as well. But yes, the cup runs definitely made a difference to that. And then, yes, Henrik McGlasson's just made that comment there as well. Dundee fixture was rearranged due to the stadium being blown to bits. Andrew Galea, more teams. The Rangers franchise are no more special than any other club in Scotland. Yes, it's very much the case. Yeah, it's actually interesting, and there's some actual parallels, not to go into too much of a deep dive here, but there's actually some parallels here at the moment. So with the A-League, we've got a 10-team competition here, and one of the criticisms is the fact that we don't have the same amount of games, so we don't tend to play everybody the same amount of times. Like, we won't play a particular team more than 3 times a season. But, you know, it's 10 teams. It is a little bit stale at times when you feel like you've just played an opponent, and particularly similar kind of vibe here as well. They tend to fixture a lot of derby games in a very close proximity, and the league relies on it here because it's actually a big, not just money inducing kind of thing where it actually brings in a lot of coin, but it also gets it on the map. The derbies are the sort of prime time fixtures, and the league sort of relies on them to kind of sell the league a bit more as a whole, both here and overseas. But we've just announced in the last day or so that there's going to be another league directly underneath, a national league just underneath the A-League called the Championship, which is bringing in a lot of other sort of clubs, some from the old NSL, National Soccer League, which was the top tier back in the day. Some of those clubs are going to form up this Championship League. And at the moment, it is a league that's sort of going to be like at the old Champions League, where they'll be sort of in group stages and then they'll play up a bit for a cup. But there's no indication at the moment that there's going to be promotion and relegation between the two. And so whilst you are going to have this new league and some interest there, there's no direct pathway for them to get into the top flight of Australian football. So it's an interesting discussion. It's definitely something that people in Australia, and yourself, obviously, Willie, because you know the A-League because of the New Zealand connection in it as well, there's definitely parallels there. But I think similar issues might arise in Scotland that we have here, which is just financially, it's very difficult for us to add new teams to this league. And I'm actually going to correct myself. I said we have a 10-team league. We've actually got more than 10 teams. We've got 12 teams. We used to have 10 teams. We've got 12 teams now. So that's a bad mistake for someone who loves the A-League so much to make. But it's still, it does get a little bit stale, and we do want to see more teams. And I think we should have a bigger table. So similar to Scotland a little bit there. But again, the pricing of it and what it might cost might just be a bit too much of a bridge for our respective leagues. And Andrew's just chimed in on the A-League discussion, if I can here. A-League season is too short. Not enough teams, needs promotion and relegation ASAP. Again, it all comes down to the financial viability of the league and the clubs, unfortunately. So, interesting discussion. Do you think anything will come of it in the short term, Willie, getting back to the Scottish Premiership, or do you think it's just going to sort of carry on the way it is?
Nah, the status quo will carry on because there's too many country club guys owning these smaller teams, and they're just happy with the status quo. So they're just quite happy to carry on. I mean, it's just something that the fans want, and ultimately football is nothing without fans, as we all know. But nobody wants to listen to the fans when it comes to how to rearrange the league. So it's just something. It's just one of them things. You just go through a little phase where you play the same teams over and over again, and they just seem the fixtures against them come thick and fast, sort of between them. But as for the A-League having 12 teams, you just wish it was back to 10 teams because of who's top, don't you?
What is it? 12? Maybe I've got it wrong. Maybe it's 13. Maybe I've got this completely wrong. This is going to be very embarrassing if I've got this wrong. I'm gonna actually check this now because obviously Auckland has just come in. I think it might actually be 13 this year because we've got a bye. So we had 12 teams up until this league just gone, which is obviously Auckland's come in. And yes, to your comment, Willie, Auckland is absolutely dominating proceedings. They are top of the league. Yeah. So their first season in the A-League, they are top of the league. They are running away with the title. Adelaide's pegged them back a little bit. But yes, we do have the 13 teams. This is not going to go down well with my A-League mates. They're going to not let me forget the fact that I forgot how many teams were in the league. But yes, Auckland's doing very well. And it gives, I think just generally speaking, and I won't get caught up on this discussion too much longer, but it does give hope to other teams coming into the league. And, you know, maybe for other leagues in similar capacity that you can sustain it if possible. All right. Well, we might get on to this upcoming fixture this weekend for us, which is at home to Dundee United, as we've already kind of alluded to in that previous discussion. It's another Dundee club. So 3 p.m. kickoff, Celtic Park time. So that's 2 a.m. Melbourne time on Sunday morning. That'll be 4 a.m. New Zealand time. So pretty early start. I'm not promising I'll be up to watch that. I might have to watch the replay in the morning. We will see how we go. It's Saturday night after all, so don't rule everything out.
Always there.
I don't sleep. It's just a rumor. So just a couple of things to reel off about Dundee United. So they're currently sitting third in the table at the moment. Overall, they've had a pretty good season, but had a little bit of a slip up recently. They've lost 5 of their last 6. Their only win was 1-0 away to St Mirren. So they're coming in this off a little bit of rough form, in all honesty. In terms of their squad, they've got a couple of players to focus on, but Sam Dalby is definitely the one that I'd want to highlight. So he scored 11 goals in the Premiership this season. He's actually leading the Premiership scoring charts at the moment, Sam Dalby. So obviously one to keep an eye on. So obviously, coming off the Champions League game against Bayern, what are you expecting from a starting 11 side of things, Willie? Are you expecting wholesale changes? Definitely, you know, in line with the fact that we're off to Munich midweek next week as well. Are you expecting significant changes? Tell me what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I definitely expect to see some changes for this match. It's going to be a tough game against United. They like to play football, actually. They like to play a 4-2-3-1. But when they come up against us, they always throw 10 men behind the ball. They probably go a 4-4-1-1, which they have done in the previous games against us, and they'll probably sit in and try and play for a 0-0 draw. So it might be a game where we just have to sort of grind it out, and just go with what we've got. But we don't want to sort of tire out too many of our first team regulars, but we don't want to leave ourselves too weak either, because this is the third team in Scotland. So for me, I think there will be changes, and I think what we'll see is like Ralston will come in, Scales will come in, Schlupp will come in. The midfield, you'll probably find Bernardo and McCowan will come in. And I think Jota will play on the wing. So, yeah, there's definitely some changes to be made like that.
So there's a couple of comments come in that I'll just bounce to. So Defo start Schlupp and Jota need the game time. That's definitely where I'm leaning. I'd most certainly start Schlupp at left back. I think that's absolutely warranted, and I'd actually want him starting in Munich as well. So I think that's important to get him up to speed. Just one from Square Sausage Mick. Is Bernardo injured? So he obviously took that heavy knock before the Bayern game. So in the Premiership fixture before that, or the Cup fixture, sorry, against Wraith, I think it was before that. And we were told by Brendan that it was just a knock and that he was fine. But I did notice that he obviously wasn't in the squad against Bayern Munich, from what I could tell. So maybe there's a little bit more to it, unless I'm mistaken. But I'm pretty sure he wasn't even on the bench. So no. So yeah, maybe there's a little bit more to it. Square Sausage Mick, definitely something to watch. A couple of other comments here. Maeda and Kun rested, Yang and Jota. Yes, agree with that. Let's have a look. Smell the glove. Just responding to Mick. Mickey rolled his ankle for against Wraith, as we alluded to. And Andrew Galea with a bit more I clicked on the wrong wrong comment there from McLaughlin P. So I haven't even put the context up for that. So sorry, McLaughlin P. It just came up when I was trying to show this one, which is Schlupp, Scales, CCV, Ralston, Bernardo, McCown, Calmac, Jota, Edie, Yang. So Andrew's gone with his starting 11 there. And obviously I'm guessing, well, Andrew, fair question back to you, Andrew. Sinisalo in goal or Schmeichel? I'm probably leaning Schmeichel. But with the goalkeeper aside, what do you think of that starting lineup from Andrew? Is there anything you'd change there, Willie?
Pretty similar. Well, I've got Schmeichel on goals, Ralston, CCV, Scales, Schlupp. So yeah, he's got CCV as well. Yeah. So Engels, Bernardo, McCowan in the midfield. He's got Calmac, whereas I'll have Engels. So I think Calmac needs a rest, and I've got Jota, Ida, and Kuhn on the wing. So. But I think my tactic would be try and go hard at them to begin with and try and get a couple of goals, kill the game off, and then I would take players like Kuhn and Engels off, probably Ida, and start throwing other players like Yang and whoever else on, maybe Kenny up front, just give the other guys a rest. But I think the key to this game is just try and kill it off as early as you can. They're going to kind of come out and play for another draw. If we can get a couple of goals in the first half, just kill it off and then just start rotating players in and out.
Yeah, look, there's definitely a couple of players. Obviously, I've mentioned Schlupp to start with, but I definitely want McCowan to get some game time. These are the games and fixtures I actually want to see him play in a bit more, make sure that he's actually playing at league level a fair bit and getting those appearances up. I agree with resting Calmac. I'm just not sure it'll ever happen, really. He's a machine. He loves playing. He loves putting the armband on and representing Celtic every week. I'm sure it's hard to keep him out of the starting lineup when he wants to play, but I'd definitely rest him if possible. And yeah, so Jota, I'd definitely be keen on playing and bringing him off around 60 minutes as well. Just need him to get up to speed because I think I'd definitely be looking at him starting Munich. So a lot of the team selection and the subs on the weekend goes without saying will be in relation to how Brendan wants to tackle the return leg against Bayern in midweek. So score prediction, Willie, what do you think the score is going to be and who do you think is going to score for Celtic?
I'm going for a 2-0 win, and I think McCowan and Ida will score, and I think both goals hopefully will come in the first half early enough.
Yeah, I'm going 3-0. I'm going McCowan, Jota, and I'm going Engels will get a penalty and Engels will score. So 3-0 victory, comfortable performance against the Dundee United team that unfortunately just seems to be a little bit off the boil at the moment. So, but have had a good season nonetheless. McLaughlin P, 3-0 to the Celts. Jota, McCown, and Kuhn. Andrew Galea, Yang will score. He's in form. He's gonna be buzzing after his contribution against Bayern Munich as well. So I would not bet against it. Smell the glove, 3-1. Yeah, we're starting to see some. I really think we'll keep a clean sheet, but if we don't, I don't see them getting more than one. So I think that's fair. And I think that brings us to the end of the Thursday Sesh. So obviously, big shout out to everybody who's tuned in tonight. We've had quite a few people in the comments, as always. A great, vibrant atmosphere in there, as always. And we've had a lot of people tuning into the live stream. So shout out to everybody who's watched along, got involved. As I said, give us a like, give us a follow. We really want more people involved. We might go to our final thought now. And Willie, I'll go to you first. Is there anything you want to finish up on, mate?
No, I was down in Wellington over the weekend visiting a school friend who's doing a bit of a tour through New Zealand and Australia. He's heading that way shortly. So I was just blown away. I was second or third time I've been in Wellington. I'm actually blown away by the city. It's one of the greenest cities you'll see in the world through the vegetation that just grows throughout it. It's a beautiful city. So anyone who ever gets a chance to visit Wellington, it's well worth it.
Well, it's funny because Wellington actually ties into my final thought. So, and it is back to the A-League. So, the Melbourne Victory are playing the Wellington Phoenix tomorrow night, and this game is basically the 20-year celebration for Melbourne Victory. So this season marks 20 years of being in the A-League, and this game is kind of being highlighted as that 20-year celebration where the club's going to yeah, celebrate some of its key moments, have a few legends come back, and so forth. So it's the celebration of a club that means so much to me, and many, many thousands of others here in Australia, and I'm sure abroad as well. So I'm looking forward to that tomorrow night, and fingers crossed that they can turn around some recent poor form and get a win against Wellington and keep pressure on trying to get back up the table. So yeah. Fingers crossed we can get the win tomorrow night, but looking forward to celebrating 20 years of Melbourne victory. Anyway, that's enough waffle for me. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the afternoon or morning, wherever you are. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.